My name is Ramona Ortega. I am the CEO and founder of WealthBuild.ai and previously founded a company called My Money, My Future. I am of Mexican descent. I'm fourth generation out of California, but lived in New York for about 25 years now. And I came to this work in terms of financial inclusion and fintech as actually a securities litigator on Wall Street. And before that, I did international human rights. And before that, I did journalism. So I've kind of had a journey that's taken me all over the place and landed in what I think is the perfect position for me as an entrepreneur in finance. So my passion and my work really has evolved out of a deep desire to create economic mobility and equality for, in particular, communities of color. I come from a very working class background. My mom was a farm worker. I was the first in my family to go to college and later to go to law school. And I consider myself a first generation wealth builder. And part of what that means for me is figuring out how do we make personal finance and financial wellness accessible to all, and how does my community in particular build intergenerational wealth. We are hard workers. We are super dedicated to family and school and to career and work. But we often don't see the sort of results, the ROI of our work in terms of economic mobility and even economic stability. As we've seen post-COVID, Latinos were one of the communities that were hit the hardest. And I want to see a difference. I want people to have the opportunity and funding to live their best life. Yeah, so we hear a lot of people throwing around things like build wealth, closing the racial wealth gap. And I think that we often lose the sort of picture of, well, what exactly does that mean, right? How do we actually do that? I mean, we all want to move the needle historically. We want to close that gap, which is about $100,000 gap. And when we talk about closing the racial wealth gap, it's very specific. It means that communities of color, in particular Latino and Black communities, have $100,000 less of net worth. And net worth is simply the number or the amount of money you have left over after you pay off all of your bills, or what we call liabilities. So to be very clear, net worth is take all of the things that you own that are worth any money, your house, your car, jewelry, art, your stocks, your cash, put it all into a bucket, sell it, essentially, get cash for it. And once you have that cash, you pay off everything you owe. You pay off your mortgage, you pay off your car, you pay off your student loan debts. All of that, once you paid it off, is there anything left? That is what your net worth is, because that's the money that then essentially gets passed down to a different generation. Or that's the money that is essentially used to build long-term wealth. And so that's the difference, because oftentimes people can get really focused on salary. So someone can make even $250,000, for example, a year and still have negative net worth because their liabilities, their bills are way more than what their assets are. So when I talk about all of the things that I'm going to talk about in terms of financial tips and things to do and why you have certain accounts, etc., remember that I'm always talking about sort of net worth. It's either on the asset side or the liability side. Liabilities meaning all the things that we want to pay down. Assets are all the assets that we want to accumulate. And so in policy conversations, in fintech and financial inclusion, whenever people are talking about closing the racial wealth gap, I want us to get very specific what that means. And the way that we do that is to really hone in on your overall net worth. So there's kind of like three or four pillars to building wealth. The first is sort of your cash, and the savings account has to do with your cash. So it's always good to have what we call an emergency savings account, right? And that's going to cover things like your rent, groceries, bills. It's essentially the amount of money you need to survive every month. For most people, you're going to want to have 3 to 6 months of that amount in a high yield savings account. And that is specifically designed for an emergency savings. Right now, you've heard a lot about interest rates, which is why you want to have your money in a high yield savings account, because you're getting about 3% on that on some of the high yield savings accounts. That is money you don't touch, and it's liquid. And what I mean by that is that it's cash. It's easily accessible. You don't have to sell a stock. You don't have to sell something to get that money. It's sitting in cash, ready when you need it. If you don't have a emergency savings account at all right now, I would always say start with $1,000. Make that your goal. So take 3 months if you need to, take 6 months if you need to, and put in $1,000 into a high yield savings account. After that, you want to start putting away enough money to cover, again, 3 to 6 months of your core expenses. If you have children, you might even want to extend that out to 8 months. But for maybe a younger person, you want to at least have 2 to 3. So the savings is, think about that as sort of like your cash on hand. Almost every other dollar that you have should be put to work. And that's where we talk about investing, because remember, cash is generally losing money unless it's making a very high interest rate, which almost never exists. We are in a very high interest rate environment right now, and it's still, like I said, anywhere from 2 to 3%. And if you haven't moved that money, you might be in a savings account that actually has less than 1%, which means you're definitely lower than inflation right now, because inflation is about 6 and 7%. Absolutely. This is one of my favorite conversations. Two things here. One, all of your listeners are going to get access to my investment boot camp, which is usually about $500 to $600. Everyone here who uses the link will get access to it for free. That's an 8-week investment boot camp course. It is going to go over the fundamentals of investing, because there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of people don't understand the fundamentals. So the first question, though, is how do you kind of get started? The first way to get started is actually to understand the different types of accounts. So let me go over the 3 that are kind of most important. The first one is your retirement account. Your retirement account is an employer-based account. So only if you're employed at a sort of a general service job will you have access to a 401k or a 403b if you're at a nonprofit or you're a teacher. It's almost identical. They're just classified differently in the tax code. So your 401k, 403b is your employer-based retirement account. You should be investing in that. And you should be asking your employer, what's the match, if they have a match. And if they do, you must take it, and you must take it to get the full match, because that is free money. It's money that the employer is giving you to encourage you to be investing in your 401k. So that's the first kind of account that you're going to pay attention to. Remember that once you put the money in there, you have to allocate it. When you allocate it, you're choosing from a number of different either mutual funds, ETF funds, or index funds. Because 401ks are regulated under certain policy, governmental policy, you're not allowed to just necessarily buy individual stocks. You're buying index funds, mutual funds, or some kind of a target date fund oftentimes. So you're going to ask your employer for some more information about those, because they're different. Every employer has a different company that manages their 401k. And you're going to ask about the match, and you're going to make sure you're taking it. So those are 2 things. That's a 401k. And the reason why it's really important is that that's your safety net for retirement. That is your long-term future account. Very important. You're not messing around with it. You're not buying crypto in it. You're using it for long-term security. and you don't pay taxes on it right now because you pay taxes on it when you withdraw it post retirement. So that's why if you are in a high salary job, you want to use your 401k to reduce your taxable income. So if you're making $175,000 and you're able to put $25,000 a year into your 401k, you are only taxed on $150,000. And as you move up that scale, which we hope all of you do, you're going to want to figure out ways to pay less taxes. So that's a 401k. Those are called tax deferred accounts. Anything that has to do with tax deferment, retirement accounts. Small business owners can also create them, the SCPs and different types of retirement accounts. The other type of account that you'll hear a lot about are IRAs, and there's two flavors. There's a traditional IRA, which is an investment retirement account, and then there's a Roth IRA. Every young person that's listening should have a Roth IRA. The reason that we like Roth IRAs is that your money grows tax-free because it's quote unquote after tax money. So let's say you are a freelancer and you get $1,500, a check for $1,500 for some work you did. You put it into your Roth IRA, you invest it in some kind of an index fund or mutual fund, or you can actually buy individual stocks if you want to do that under a Roth IRA. You let it sit in there. It grows, it grows, it grows. 10 years from now, you realize you have a nice little chunk of change in there and you want to buy a house and you want to take some of that money. You can withdraw that money tax-free. So that's the benefit of having a Roth IRA. It's almost acts like a super emergency fund. So we love them, but there are limitations based on how much you make a year, which is why they're great for young people. And as you kind of go up the ladder in terms of your salary, you're going to be excluded from investing through a Roth IRA. So again, the investment bootcamp is going to walk people through a lot of those terms and what that looks like. So a traditional IRA, a lot of people have them in addition to a 401k, because when you leave your job, which for most millennials, they're going to have many jobs and they're going to have many 401ks that are sitting out there, you're going to generally do a rollover. You're going to roll that 401k over into a traditional IRA. The reason you want to do that is you don't want to be paying administrative fees for 5 or 6 different 401ks that are sitting out in the world. You want to consolidate them so that as you get smarter about your money and you get smarter about investing, you can manage that money in your own IRA. You can open those nowadays almost sort of free, essentially, at a Schwab or a Fidelity or a Vanguard. So there's lots of options to open up an IRA, and they're a really great tool to roll over your 401ks as you leave jobs. Now, those are all called retirement accounts, and they're kind of lumped together, different flavors of them, but they're all essentially retirement type accounts. You can also invest via a brokerage account. And I know that one of the questions we are talking about is the FU fund, and this is related to that. When I talk about investing, or actually when a lot of people ask me, how do I get started investing? I want to start investing. What they really mean is that they want to start investing through a brokerage account, because that's kind of the sexy piece, right? They want to identify stocks. They want to buy those stocks. Maybe they want to trade options. That's where you're going to do that, is in a brokerage account. Brokerage accounts have nothing to do with retirement. You're still investing. They're still investment accounts, but nothing to do with retirement, which means you can put money in there. You can buy stock. You can sell stock, and you will be taxed, but the tax is going to be called a capital gains tax. It has nothing to do with retirement tax code, and it doesn't reduce your income. It has nothing to do with that. So what you do need to pay attention to, though, is the capital gains tax. Remember, you can make money, but when you withdraw that money, so you make that sale of that stock, when you sort of get that money out of your brokerage account, you will be taxed on it, and you're going to pay a capital gains tax. If you hold the stock longer than a year, you will pay less. That's called a long-term holding. If you only hold it for 6 months, you are going to get taxed at a higher capital gains tax. And capital gains tax also takes into consideration your salary. So if you are above $150,000 and you sold the stock within 6 months, you're going to pay the highest amount of capital gains tax. So again, we go over that in our 8-week course, right? And these are the things, these are the nuances of understanding. They're not complicated. It's just like understanding the rules of a game. If you go play cards, you understand the rules of the game. Same thing. Investment, you got to understand how it works. So when we say, how do I get started? I actually think that everyone should have a brokerage account. I like the idea of people having skin in the game to learn. So even if you take $5, $10, $20, $50, put it into a brokerage account. There's many options out there. You got people like Robinhood or Public, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, all of those good options. You can open a brokerage account, you put some money in there, and you make a trade. Follow brands that you like. I always say, like, the old Warren Buffett style is, if you use it, buy it, right? So if you use Tide and laundry soap and you know that's all you use, then buy some stock in the parent company. If you wear Nikes all the time, buy some stock in that parent company. So that's one strategy to get started with investing. I will say one more thing about investing, because I think that people often only think about investing as investing in the stock market. There's all kinds of ways to invest. If you are a homeowner, you are an investor. It's just real estate investing. If you are buying gems, if you buy watches, you're an investor. There's any asset that's worth value and that increases in value is an investment. So lots of ways to invest. Most people want to get started in investing. They're going to do it in a brokerage account generally to get started, or through their 401k. And then once they're in that brokerage account, they're going to have to identify certain stocks. One easy way to do that is just to buy an index fund or to buy an ETF. Those are just pools of stocks in the same genre. So you can buy an ETF or an index fund that follows electric cars. And so all of the companies that are sort of in the business of electric cars will be in that ETF or in that index. So that's the short version of an 8-week or 8-class course. So that, just to build on what I was just talking about in terms of the brokerage account, FU funds are, essentially the fund that allows you to leave your job, leave on vacation, buy a new house. It's the buy a boat, it's money that you have made through active investments that is not your retirement account. Your retirement accounts are the 401ks, the 403bs, that are your safety net. Those are accounts that you're going to use in the future to live off as you enter retirement. Your FU fund is money that you can actively manage and make during your sort of working years. And you can draw down from that if you want, and use that in any way that you see fit. So when we talk about making your money work for you, this is what we're talking about. It's passive income. So let's say that I do cost dollar averaging, which is something all of your users should be doing. Cost dollar averaging simply means that every month on the 15th, I put $100 into my account, and maybe I buy the same stock or that same index. Maybe I'm just buying the S&P 500 index. Every month at the same time, I put the same amount of money in. So I'm not trying to beat the market by buying at a low, selling at a high. I'm just consistently doing something. Cost dollar averaging is what you're doing. And it's the same thing that you're doing in your 401ks. You just don't know the terminology for it. So that's a way to build your FU fund. If you start early enough, if you're 20 and you start investing $100 a month even just in a general index fund, you're going to have a significant amount of money by the time that you're 35, 40. And with that money, you can take it out, you can leverage it, you can do a lot of things. But that's your FU fund. Yes, absolutely. So there's so many industrious Latinas who have side hustles out there. So get very familiar with the Schedule C. If you've made over $500, meaning you did someone's quinceañera, maybe you did someone's hair, maybe you are a baker and you've done something, or you've designed a website. If you've received $500 in income that's on a 1099, you are able to write off some of the things that you've used for your business. And if, in fact, if your business is at your home and you use a portion of your home, let's say it's a small office that you have, and that's 10% of the square footage of your home, you can write that off as a business expense. You can write off a portion of your internet. You can write off a portion of your computer. Whatever you use to power that business can be written off as long as you have sales, right? And so that's something. Get comfortable with that Schedule C. They're built into a lot of these Intuit and tax advisor companies now. The other thing is just to don't be afraid of taxes. Don't be afraid of taxes. Look, at the end of the day, taxes are meant for us to all contribute to the functioning of sort of the federal government or the state government, municipal government, right? And so think of it as that everybody has to pay their quote unquote fair share. Now, whether they actually do or not is a whole other issue, but that's the idea. And so we have this progressive tax system that's a little complicated. So it's a certain amount of money at the first increment, and then a different amount at the second increment. So you don't even need to know all of that, but I want people to be familiar with standard deductions. And so taking a look at, do you own a home? Did you do any, refurbishing of that home? Did you, do you have kids that are under a certain age? Did you pay for school? There's lots of things that can act as deductions to your taxes. So whether you're talking to someone or just looking it up online, think about anything that can be written off. There's quite a few things that can be to reduce your tax liability. The other thing that I'll mention, because I see this a lot, people always get excited. Oh, I got money back. I'm getting money back. So the thing is, it's not really like you're getting money back. That's your money that you lent to the government tax-free, right? So when you are taking more money out of your paycheck than you need to, what happens is at the end of the year, the government gives you back that money. So in the meantime, by the way, they've been putting that money in their treasuries and they're earning interest off of it. So if you are consistently getting a lot of money back, you might want to take a look at your taxes and see if there's a way to adjust your either your withholdings or adjust your taxes, because you might want to actually keep some of that money month to month and put it towards your retirement or put it towards something else, rather than letting the government borrow it for a year and then giving it back to you at the end of the year. Yeah, this is a great question. So I have a book that's going to come out called No Shame in the Money Game. And I would say that one of the biggest things is about not having shame around money. The system is not necessarily built for working class people. Let's just call it what it is. It is meant to be extractive. And even though I am in financial services, it's a business that's not necessarily transparent. And so there's a lot of things that feel like you've made money mistakes, or you haven't, done X, Y, or Z. You haven't managed your money in the right way. And so we get a lot of shame around that, when in fact, a lot of times is that, one, the truth is nobody gets financial education in this country. You're lucky if you have a parent that gives it to you, which is, by the way, why I created my company, so that everyone has access to financial education and a financial advisor per se. And we're doing that through AI. But you need to have a relationship that is non-judgmental with yourself and your money. So if you've made mistakes, if your credit score isn't good enough, that's okay. Keep it moving. Hit the reset button. You can always do better with your money starting today. You can pull down your credit report. You can look at your credit score. You can say, okay, what do I need to do to get a better credit score because I want to buy a house or I want to do X, Y, and Z, right? So that's the nice thing about this, is that it's totally in your control to the extent that you can manage and organize your money. Organization, I think, is the second best thing to understanding how to create a healthy relationship with money. Organizing your accounts, figuring out how much your balances are, understanding your interest rates, understanding where your money is being put to work, looking at your accounts. When you know stuff, when you have control over it, you are going to feel better. One of the things that we offer, for example, on our platform is that you can connect all of your credit cards and your bank accounts so you can see your cash across the board. So that's really important. And then the third thing is really taking action. So not just talking about it, but saying, okay, I want to be an investor. I want to take action. I want to build some wealth. I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm, 45, etc. That's all great. So work backwards. Have a plan. Not having a plan is a plan. It's just a bad plan. So you want to make sure that you have a plan to reach your financial goals so that you can live your best life. So many things. Look, we as Latinas are so community focused, and we are resilient because of that. And I think that it plays a huge part in the way that I've shaped the work that I do, which is it's not just about building products for me as a tech entrepreneur. It's about building products that actually move the needle, right? And I think that that is huge in terms of understanding the nuances, the cultural nuances that we as a community have with our money. So for example, we tend to make financial decisions as a family unit, especially around homes. So that information is really important in how I design either our AI or our conversations or our products, right? So lots of people buy homes as a family. Lots of people take care of their parents, because there might not be a 401k or a retirement plan in place for them. Those are the kinds of things that I'm always thinking about that inform how we think about a new generation of financial services, because remember, we are the majority in this country. We are and that's only going to be growing over the next 15 years. We are a young demographic. We are a working demographic. We are a hungry for information demographic. And we are the future of finance. And so it's really important for me as a fintech entrepreneur to make sure that I understand those nuances. And I think that that's huge. Understanding that community, that resilience, those cultural nuances is invaluable for me.